Hey folks, Michael Mann with Michael Mann Security Services. Today we're going to talk about physical security assessments. Last week we got into comprehensive physical security for houses of worship, and we talked about PSAs, EAPs, emergency action plans, and of course physical security plans. So this week we're going to get more into what is a physical security assessment. Next week we're going to cover the EAP, and the next week we'll cover your physical security plan. So let's talk about PSAs. Really quickly, if you want to get a hold of us, you can get me at contact@michaelmannsecurityservice.com. You can always call me at 615-956-3912. If I don't answer, just leave me a message, and I will call you directly as soon as I get a step away from what I was tied up on. So let's talk about the agenda real quick. What is a physical security assessment, number one? Number two, what are the objectives of the physical security assessment? And then, of course, number three, what are the qualifications for a physical security assessment, or for the person that's actually doing the assessing? Okay, so a physical security assessment is nothing more than a detailed analysis of the threats that face your church, or like the threats that your church face. So what you're trying to protect the church against. It is also the current security posture. So it analyzes what the current security posture for the church is, like what you're currently doing and what you have in place. It analyzes the vulnerabilities or system weaknesses, both the observable and the exploitable vulnerabilities. And then it provides improvements or suggestions to improve your security. So this is very simple. It is a very detailed analysis of the threats, or like a threat assessment, what your current security posture is, a vulnerability assessment, and then of course what countermeasures should go into place to actually address those threats and vulnerabilities. Pretty simple. All right, pretty simple stuff. Now, the objective for the assessment, number one, is a roadmap for security program. So if you get a qualified assessor in here to do your church or into your house of worship, then that assessor and this report should give you a roadmap of what you need to do. So this person could step away after giving you the report, and you could put everything in place. Obviously, if you have the resources to do it, right? So if you've got the resources to purchase the equipment that is suggested, to conduct the training, to recruit the volunteers. So if you have those internal resources, this is a roadmap to tell you what to do. Or if you don't have them right away, and it takes a year to get those resources, whatever, this report is there to tell you what to do today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, whatever. Okay, so it's a roadmap. It also has an element of procedural adherence. So it will tell you procedurally also what it is that you need to do. So it actually provides a roadmap for your procedures, not just what you're going to actually do to firm up those vulnerabilities and address those threats, but also it's going to let you know what procedures need to be put into place. And then, of course, that what goes along with that is a standard. It is your physical security standard. The roadmap is going to tell you your standard for physical security for your house of worship, which is what's missing in most houses of worship when we talk about security programs. And the reason for that is just this is something new for most churches. There's not a lot of security experts to say that are doing this or managing this for churches. It's just volunteers. They're stepping in because they want to serve the Lord, they want to serve the church. But a lot of times, or in my experience, what I see is, they're not security experts, right? So this is going to provide a standard for your church and for your team. Now, what are qualifications if you want to pay somebody to come in and do this? And that's what I suggest. I see a lot of where like there's a volunteer that's been a police officer, or maybe work for a contract security company, or many years ago, maybe they did something in security, and they go into Google and they print off, or they find some sort of a checklist on, basically, which would be like a security audit, and then they use that to try to put an assessment into place. That's okay, because a lot of times I see churches get that for free, so it's saving our resources. But folks, that's not going to give you a comprehensive assessment. That's really not what an assessment is. That a lot of times what that is some sort of a checklist or some sort of an audit document, and it's probably not going to fit you guys very well, or it may provide you some bad information. So here is what, if I'm going to bring somebody in, here's what this should look like. What are the qualifications for the assessor? So number one, do they have experience in conducting physical security assessments? And ask them, like, how many years have you done this? Who have you done this for? And you should be able to contact some of those churches or other houses of worship or ministries and ask questions, because that's what I would do. I want to make sure if we're actually going to have somebody come in and do this, what experience does this person have? Because they need to have experience. If they don't, you may get a bad report that tells you something, that you don't need to do, and it could be a waste of resources. So I want to make sure they have experience, number one. Number two, how about education? Like after 9/11, because I took advantage of this. I'd already had an undergraduate degree, but after 9/11, I'd got into physical security for the United States government, and I went and got both a second undergraduate degree and then a master's in security. And in my master's program, as a 2-year program, almost a 2-year program, I learned how to conduct detailed risk assessments. Now, in my job working for the United States government, I was already doing assessment work, and they trained me in their methodology. But I learned a general methodology while going through graduate school, and then had to actually do an assessment, a comprehensive assessment for a project while I was in graduate school. So when we talk about education, there are educational programs out there, degree programs and other programs. It's good to see that that's on the assessor's resume, so they have experience actually doing not only doing the assessment, but experience in some sort of methodology. So what type of methodology have they been trained in to do this? And then, of course, training and certification. So that gets back into the assessment methodology piece. Are they certified in some sort of methodology? And do they have documentation for it? If they are certified in a methodology, it should be documented, and they should be able to show that to you, and you would want to see that. Now, everybody's not going to have this, but ASIS is the American Society of Industrial Security. It is a 50-year old plus or over 50 years professional international security association. Again, it's international, so it's in a number of countries. They provide certifications. One is the PSP certification, which stands for Physical Security Professional, and that specifically focuses on 3 elements to include, or specialties to include, risk and threat assessments. So if somebody's got a PSP certification, you know that they've been certified and signed off on by ASIS. Doesn't mean that they've been trained and certified in an assessment methodology, but it does give them that subject matter expertise in actual assessments. So these are some things I would look for, especially if you're paying for the assessor, right? If you're paying someone to do this, these are the elements I would look for as far as qualifications go, okay? If you got any questions, again, you can get me at contact@michaelmannsecurityservice.com. You can call me at 615-956-3912. And remember, folks, it is about prevention, not response.